I'm Maggie and welcome back to our cabin. In today's video, we're going to be testing different types of sealers and stains for getting a natural finish look on our wooden walls inside of our cabin. We are going to be testing 5 different types of finishes on 3 different types of wood. We're going to be doing all softwoods that we have on the interior of our cabin, which are spruce, white pine, and white cedar. So the first finish we're going to be testing is this BEAUTITONE wood shield. It's a clear coat satin finish. It's for interior and it's an acrylic polyurethane finish. We use this on our ceilings. So our ceilings are cedar inside the cabin, and we liked how they turned out. I found they went a little bit orange on the cedar, but not too bad, and so I just assumed, okay, this will be fine to use on the rest of our cabin. We want to have a really natural look. I would like to maybe just leave it completely unfinished, but I know that over time when people touch it or things get dirty, it can stain the wood, or the sunlight coming in can discolor it. So I thought I'd like to just put something to protect the wood for the years to come. And so I just went ahead and used this on one of the big walls in our cabin, which I do not recommend. Always test your sealer first before you use it. And I thought I had on the ceilings, but it wasn't the same wood, so I should have known to try it again. So our walls are spruce wood, and I found that this made the spruce wood go very yellow, and I don't really like that yellow look. I want it to be more brown or neutral, a more natural color, not that orangey yellow. And so this is number 1 we'll be testing on the 3 different types of wood, the spruce, the cedar, and the pine. The next we're going to test is tung oil. So the tung oil you put on with a rag, and it is oil-based because it's an oil, and so you have to be careful. It can be flammable, the rags and things, so just be careful when you're putting it on. But my husband picked this one up, and he likes it for when he's doing things like axe handles and cutting boards and finished carpentry, things like that he's doing. And so we bought this, and we're going to try it. It would be a bit maybe expensive for the whole cabin, but it can go pretty far. So we're going to try this out and see what it does to the different types of wood. The next one is, this is a Minwax polyurethane, and it's a water-based, and it is supposed to be just clear. It's semi-gloss because we couldn't get the matte in the small can for testing, so we just got the semi-gloss. And I want to see what it does to the tones of the wood, if it makes it go yellow or if it keeps it a more true color to what the wood is. So we're going to test this on the 3 different types. And then we also have another Minwax product. And so this is the Minwax, this is a stain, and this is called Simply White. And we thought this might help the wood stay that more natural white color and not so much the yellow tinge. And since spruce is a pretty white wood once you have it sanded. And so we're going to try this out and see how it looks. If you just put a stain on, usually you still would cover it with something. So maybe this with one of the clear coats over top would work. But we'll try it out and see what it does to the wood. And then we have one more. The last one is, this is a jar of vinegar with steel wool inside. And we actually tested this a while back, and it made the wood go really dark. It was a nice gray tone, so not orange or not yellow, which I liked a lot about that, but I found it too dark. So this time I'm going to try leaving it for less time. So this has been in here for about, I'm going to leave it for about 2 hours before we try applying it, and then we'll see what it does to the wood. And the more coats you put on, the darker it will get. If we just want a little subtle tone to the wood, this might be a good one to put underneath that polyurethane, and it might take the yellow out. So we're going to try this. I don't want it too dark. We want to keep our cabin nice and bright. So we'll try some and see what it turns out like. Now that I have all of the stains put on the wood, I'm going to leave them overnight to see how they dry and what they turn out like, and I'll catch back up with you tomorrow. So it's the next day, and I have the results of our test. So we'll start with the pine. And so this is what the natural pine looks like on this end. This first section is the BEAUTITONE varnish, and as I was thinking from what we put on the walls, it's quite yellow. The most yellow of all the options. And so I really shouldn't have gone with that. The next option we have here is the tung oil, and as you can see, it added a little bit of shine to the wood, but actually kept it pretty true to color. We only did 1 coat for all of these, so often people will put multiple coats, but I want to see what 1 coat would look like. And then we have the Minwax, which was also the sealer, and I find it's less yellow than the BEAUTITONE, but still similar, just slightly less yellow, which would make sense. It's a little bit more expensive. It's just a different brand of clear varnish. And then we have the Simply White. To me, they're very similar, and there's not a lot of difference between the white and the natural pine. Maybe if you did multiple coats, you would get a difference in them, but I find they're pretty well the same. And then the last one is the vinegar and steel wool. Here is the steel wool. I'm not sure if the camera's picking it up, but it's slightly more gray than the natural over here. And I think that if you wanted to use that method, I would let the steel wool sit longer. I'm going to test it with a longer period of time and see. But even with those stains, the vinegar and steel wool stain or the white stain, it's still going to need something to clear coat over it. So pine is what we're going to be putting in a few of the bedrooms, but spruce here is what we have on the walls in the main area. We have BEAUTITONE first, and compared to the others, you can see that the two varnishes bring out the most yellow tone. Down here is the natural, and then these two are the varnish. Then we have the tung oil, which I find is very close to the natural down here. And then we have the simply white, and I don't think it really did anything. I think that it would need quite a few more coats to really do anything, but it did do something to the cedar that's coming up. Then we have the vinegar and the steel wool, and you can see on this one, it went a little bit gray, and that's just with that one coat that had only been sitting for 2 hours. So compared to the other, it's just a tad gray. So I actually do like what the vinegar did to it. Now we'll move on to the white cedar. And I find these the most obvious changes. So these are the white cedar, and down at this end is what it naturally is with no finish. And this is what we put on the upstairs, the BEAUTITONE. Again, it is the most yellow or shiny. Then we have the tung oil, and I really like again how it turned out. I find it kept the natural look, but just enhanced the grain a little bit. And then we have the Minwax Polyurethane, and it again went the yellow, but these two have the most seal to them for sure. Then we have the simply white, and if you compare it to where nothing's been done, with one coat it is more white and more washed out, which was why we chose it. We wanted to see if it would take that yellow tinge out. And then with the vinegar and steel wool, it did again take it just toward the cooler direction. So now that we have our experiment done, we need to make a choice of what we're going to do on the walls in the cabin. And so this wall here behind me, I shouldn't have, it's the one I made a mistake on and did it with the BEAUTITONE. And it doesn't pick up super well on camera, but it's turned kind of yellow, quite yellow actually. And when it's sunny out, it really looks yellow, and we did not like how it turned out. So that's why we did this whole test to start with, and are going to choose something different. So these are the results, what they look like inside the cabin. Today it's a bit rainy out, and we have the overhead light on, so it might affect it a little bit. But I find my favorite is the tung oil, because these two here, I do like them, but they would still need something over top them to protect the wood. But the tung oil gave it a pretty neutral color, but will protect the wood as well. So we're going to go with this. It's a bit more of an expensive option, but we think it's going to be worth it in the end. We like how it looks, and we're going to try just doing one coat and seeing how that works out. The walls are not a high traffic area like a floor or a countertop would be, so one coat might protect it just enough. I tried putting a bit of water on it, and it still beat it off pretty good, so that made me happy compared to the raw wood where it just soaked right in. So Eric has been down here earlier today and working on sanding off this old stuff we put on so we can start fresh. And so we're going to start putting some of the tung oil on and see how it turns out. We're going to put the tung oil on the wall here behind me. This is the wall behind our staircase. And I'm just going to do a little area and see how it looks. Do I go like this way?
Yeah.
What do you think?
I like it.
It doesn't look nearly as yellow as the other stuff did.
It's more gold.
It's more like just like the sharper version of the more saturated version of the color.
Yeah. We're gonna need a lot of
it though. Yeah. We're gonna need a few more bottles. So I'm really happy with how it's turned out. It looks pretty natural. If you didn't know it didn't have something on it, you wouldn't be able to tell. But it has a nice seal to it and just really highlights the pretty tones in the wood, and it is most importantly not yellow. So I'm glad we chose this. It's probably going to be a few $100s by the end of it because each bottle is about $25 and they're only this big. So it's probably going to be between $200 to $500 to do the whole cabin, but I think in the long run we'll be glad we put a little bit more extra money into it to get a better product. So thanks so much for watching. I hope this has helped you if you're looking at finishing some wood, and thanks for following along with our journey of building our off-grid cabin. If you're interested in seeing the rest of our cabin come together, subscribe and follow along. Have a great day, and I'll see you on the next one.